that LG would just be rehashing the G7 with updated specs. It turns out this wasn't the case at all, and while the outward appearance certainly bears a striking resemblance to LG's 2018 flagships, the technology behind the G8 ThinQ is more than meets the eye. First up, that notch. Yes, it's still here, but it's there for a better reason than ever before. Dubbed the Z camera, LG is utilizing a time-of-flight or TOF camera to sense depth and other information. This is the opposite of the other two OEMs that have thus far included a TOF camera on their phones, Oppo and Honor that is, who placed the TOF camera on the back. LG is instead utilizing that TOF camera for three main things: better portrait shots, truly secure biometric security, and a brand new set of air gestures for hands-free control. The least interesting implementation is better depth calculation for portrait mode shots, but that doesn't mean it's not worth talking about. A TOF camera can sense depth, which is why LG is calling it the Z camera, specifically referring to the Z-axis referenced in 3D space. As this is an infrared camera, it doesn't require light or other references to detect objects, and since it can truly detect depth, it can isolate subjects with significantly higher accuracy than other solutions. This, of course, plays right into the biometric security part, where LG is utilizing the Z camera for facial recognition that goes beyond just what your face looks like to a camera. It bases the calculation on facial structure and even, get this, vein patterns. That means there's essentially no way to spoof the biometric recognition on the G8, and, interestingly enough, visual biometric recognition isn't restricted to just using your face. It can also use your hands. The G8 has a rear-facing fingerprint scanner as well as facial recognition and palm recognition, so when the phone is sitting on a table and you don't want to look at it or pick it up to unlock, you can simply hold your hand over the top and it'll recognize the vein patterns in said hand. This Z camera is part and parcel to the new air gestures feature as well, which will certainly draw comparisons to Samsung's air gestures of old. Unlike those gestures, however, the Z camera can detect hand structure and movement in real time without lag, and works far better than even the best air gestures of old did. There's even a nice little prompt that pops up on the screen showing you the action being performed and your hand being recognized, which gives a nice visual aid for the process. The G8 is shipping with two cameras on the back, a regular and a wide angle, now without any sort of camera bump at all. Two cool new features mark this generation: Night View and Video Portrait. Night View takes up to 10 pictures at once and combines them for better low-light shots, while Video Portrait creates that bokeh-style effect during videos and can be adjusted on the fly. Human faces are detected and used automatically for this mode, but it can be manually overridden if you'd rather shoot portrait on other objects. Last year, LG launched the Boombox speaker, and this year they're upgrading that to a Crystal Sound OLED. This means that the G series is not only finally getting a better display panel than ever before, but the same sound-on-display technology LG recently launched in their line of OLED TVs is coming to their mobile lineup too. This means sound now comes from the back and front of the phones, depending on how you're using the device, and the sound-on-display tech doubles as a stereo speaker setup, marking the first time we're seeing stereo speakers on an LG flagship. This also makes that notch just a tiny bit smaller because there's no longer an earpiece speaker up top. Rather, the sound comes right from the glass itself, and it doubles as a bone conduction speaker to boot since the display itself vibrates. LG is including Android 9 Pie out of the box and thankfully seems to side with Sony and us on Google's redesigned overview screen in Pie, meaning that the faster and more functional vertically scrolling carousel will continue to make an appearance on those Pie-powered LG devices, now with sleeker round corners on each tile. Thank you, LG. Also continuing to make an appearance is that quad DAC 3.5mm audio jack on the phone, which is fantastic for audio enthusiasts. The G8 will be launching in black, gray, and red colors in the usual markets. We don't have any prices or specific dates just yet, so stay tuned for those announcements, but expect them directly from the carriers if you're here in the US. LG also briefly mentioned its next V series phone, which looks to be launching around 6 months or so after the V40. If nothing, this seems to be more of a V45 than a V50, despite actually being called the V50, as it sports the exact same body and camera configuration as the V40, but now comes with 3 important updates. Increased battery capacity, a brand new Snapdragon 855 processor, and 5G connectivity. It doesn't seem to have the Z camera or Crystal Sound OLED from that G8 though, curiously enough. LG wasn't willing to let us snap a few pictures of the device though, so just imagine this V40 with a different name on the back and no camera hump at all, and you'll get the idea. We hope you enjoyed that hands-on